good evening, and good night. This presentation is brought to you by Shallow McBad, and I just want to talk a little bit about the Clair Huxtable Archetype because I find it fascinating, especially if you're a fan of the show, The Cosby Show. And what's more fascinating about it is even for men who say they want a Clair Huxtable, I think a lot of people don't know what that is because many people have not watched the actual TV series from start to finish. You know, if you're listening in, think about it. Have you actually watched the very first episode, the pilot episode, and then watch the last episode where Theo graduates from NYU? I think most people have not watched all the way from beginning to end, and you'll get people, well, men, but more likely than that, men talking about I want Claire Huxtable, but you also get women talking about the kind of mother that Claire Huxtable was. Now, a lot of it does talk of the show actually does go into her parenting style, but people often overlook her style as a wife. Now, if you really go back, think about this. This woman, Claire Huxtable, is highly intelligent, top of her class in undergrad. From her freshman year in college to her senior year in college, she is top of her class. She's way smarter than Cliff Huxtable, right? Yet she chose Cliff because think about this: upon graduation from college, Cliff decides to go to the Navy, become a naval officer. After his 4 years, he uses the GI Bill to go to medical school, so he wouldn't have to pay for medical school. Becomes a OBGYN doctor, delivering babies and things like that. That's cool. But what was Claire Huxtable doing the whole time? Think about it. She graduated top of her class and put her whole career on hold to be a wife. She didn't just go from, you know, graduating college straight to law school because of what Cliff was doing, and she wanted to back him up. What she did was, and she trusted him. She had to trust him to actually do that, to put her career on hold, you know, and let him do his thing, and then go and follow her dream. So what did she do? She graduates from college. She gets married. She starts having babies. First baby she had was Sandra. She has Sandra, then Denise, then Theo, then Vanessa, and last Rudy. She doesn't start law school until after Rudy is born. So that's 5 children. She doesn't start law school until after 5 children are born. And even then, she still waits till Rudy gets, starts school or gets up there in age where she can go to daycare or something like that. Because, yeah, so that's what she actually, the first time you ever see Sandra is, I believe, season 1, episode 10, when she's coming home from college. That's the first time you ever see Sandra. And at that time, Sandra Huxtable is only 20 years old. So she's 20 years old, and her mother is already a lawyer. But her mother is just starting out her law career. Like, she just starting it out. Like, she graduated, she's doing her thing. In season 1, from episode 1 all the way till episode 10, Rudy is what? Maybe 4 years old. But you see that she went from being in law school to graduating. In those 10 episodes, she went from law school to graduating from law school and being a lawyer, already having a job. And she didn't have any pressure to make any money because Cliff had already established everything. He already, was an officer, naval officer. He already have his practice going. He's already getting money. They already living good. Now she has no pressure to live her dream. She didn't even have to go. She could have stayed a housewife. She didn't even have to go to law school. Now, obviously, Cliff paid for law school because, she got to get something out of it. She put her career on hold. But she was so awesome that she was able, within no time at all, I don't believe, with no time at all, within the next couple of seasons, she becomes partner of the law firm. So that shows you how brilliant she is. She didn't need 15, 20 years to become partner. She did it within a short amount of time, which a lot of, really you know, high profile lawyers can do if they're really smart and intelligent and they make the right moves and go to the right law firm and do what they, and win enough cases, they could become partners very quickly, while others who are mediocre lawyers won't. It's just, law school is just the bar, like the bare minimum. Graduating law school, well, actually, not graduating law school. Actually, passing the bar is the bare minimum, because you got plenty of people that graduate from law school never pass the bar, even though some, and then you got some people who never start. There's certain states, I think common law states, where you don't even got to go to law school to become a lawyer. You just have to pass the bar. Well, you got to read law, which reading law is a whole thing about having to study with an actual lawyer for about 3 years and then take the bar. So you can do that too, but if that's what your state offers, but most states don't offer that. I think it's only about 3 or 4 states that offer that. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna have to look it up, and I'm not gonna look it up right now. Now, like I said, the interesting thing about Claire is that she took a back seat. Another thing you gotta think about the relationship between Claire and Cliff. She never undermined Cliff ever. Never undermined him. Always let him do his thing. But they're two sides of the same coin, because whenever you got Cliff, whatever he doesn't have in his personality, Claire makes up for that, and vice versa. So they're a great team. They are one united front, right? Now, I'm a big fan of Felicia Rashad's Clair Huxtable. Big fan of it. And mainly because I watched every episode, pretty much. I don't remember them all because I don't watch everyone all the time. Sometimes once you see certain seasons or certain episodes, you'd be like, "That's an okay episode, but I really don't care about that as much," because you've already seen it. Where there's other episodes where you're like, every time I watch the series, I always got to watch this episode. It just depends on. But I would suggest you watch every episode at least once if you haven't remembered it since you were a kid or something like that. But if you go in, and like I said, most people talk about her parenting style. They don't talk about her style as a wife, because at the end of the day, if you look at the chessboard, right? Everybody always talks about, oh, chess. The queen is the most powerful piece on the board. Yes, she is the most powerful, but the king is the most important. That's just what it is. Though I will say, no man want to come in his house and the queen ain't happy, because then the whole house is just whatever. You can feel the tension, even if she ain't home. You could come home from work and you're like, dang, why does it feel like that in this house? She could be at the store. By the time she going, you gotta ask her because she got something going on, something wrong, for the energy to be off. Vice versa, coming home, whether she's there or not, the energy is good, and you're like, oh, she must be having a good day. And that's not even the whole people talk about happy wife, happy life thing. Yeah, happy wife, happy life, but that doesn't mean you got to do everything she says and it's 100% your job to make sure she's happy. No, that's not your job to make somebody happy. But it makes you feel good that she is happy, because her being happy makes you happy. That would be the reason why I would want to make my wife happy. When she's happy, I'm happy. You know what I mean? Because I don't really need much. I get money, so and she get money too. But I would rather her be happy than miserable. That's just my personal opinion, and that could be anything. She's not. She's simple, but simple and bougie, but still simple. Now, like I said, Clair Huxtable Archetype. The reason why I bring it up, I had a friend I was talking to maybe a couple days ago. He's very successful. He's actually a lawyer too. Actually a lawyer, about 35 years old. And so actually no, this wasn't a couple days ago. Well, it was a couple days ago, but that we talked about it, and it threw me off because previous weekend, we had people come over to the house, and he was there. He brought this girl with him. He's 35. This chick he brought was like 24 years old. Well, pretty young girl, whatever, like that. That's fine. Didn't really matter to me. But I talked to everybody, so I was talking to her, see where her mind was at with, what she does with herself. But I thought it was hilarious because during the week, though, after that whole thing went down, during the week, he's talking to me, my friend, and he's like, yeah, man, I just want to marry me a Clair Huxtable. And I'm like, have you ever actually watched the show? And I asked him that. And he's like, yeah, of course I watched the show. I mean, from beginning to end. Have you ever actually paid attention to Clair Huxtable? Because if you did, the woman that I see you date, I don't think you want a Clair Huxtable. I don't think you can tolerate that. Like, her strong personality, not because she's like an alpha female, because I don't even believe she's alpha female. At least not towards Cliff. I mean, she put her authority down to the children, but she was never like that with Cliff. They always, besides the fact she didn't want she always worried about Cliff's weight and not like getting overweight and things like that, and watching what he eats. She likes to pick with him with that, but I just think that's just fun to mess with him. Besides that, you never really see her undermine him or anything like that. And also, he lets her, obviously, because it's just their fun little banter. He gets in trouble to the point where it's like, it's really hilarious, especially when he's trying to sneak food. But I asked my friend, like, hey, you really want a Clair Huxtable? Do you really know what that means to want a Clair Huxtable? That means she has to trust you. Think about, like I said, Clair Huxtable pretty much gave up a lot of her time of her career that she could have had to be a stay-at-home mom, and trust that Cliff was going to take care of business. That she can have these babies, be a mother, and then when the youngest kid, when they stop having kids, go to law school. You know, and this is back when law school was like 4 years, because law school is 3 years now. But I think back in the '80s, law school was 4 years. So she put her career on hold to be a mom and a wife for a man. Not too many women are doing that nowadays, and you have to be a certain caliber of man to get a woman to do something like that. But also, she has to be a certain caliber woman because, like I said, Claire Huxtable was highly intelligent. Could have done anything. Could have been with any man. Could have had any man. And she chose Cliff. You know what I'm saying? Because yeah, Cliff got down on one knee. You know, but she had to say yes. So, like I asked my friend, "You really want one?" Because think about it. Claire Huxtable has a skill. This is another thing I always talk about. People like, I get the woman I got, and I'm thinking to myself because I always wanted a female. Like I never had a big issue with women. I never had like crazy breakups or anything crazy like that. I never had any hate. Most of them still hit me up to this day. Like just see how I'm doing. So never really had an issue with women, but I never picked a woman who couldn't take care of herself. Meaning, never picked a woman that needed me. Rather have one woman that wanted me, not necessarily need me. And also, I always thought like for the fact that if I ever got married, I was younger. Like if I ever got married, I want a woman that can get money, like how Claire Huxtable could get money. The reason why, because if something were to happen to me, and we got kids, I don't want it to just be, the money I left them or the insurance policy, and when that runs out, she gets desperate and picks any dude around my children. I want her, if she's gonna remarry, to take her time and pick somebody that she really likes and that she knows that can handle things. Not pick a man out of desperation, because a desperate woman will pick any dude. I never wanted that to happen, so I always thought to myself, okay, I want to marry a woman like Claire Huxtable who got skills. Because if you watch the show, if Cliff would die, like if Cliff would have died in the middle of the show, season 4, because there's 8 seasons. So let's say after season 4, Cliff dies. Cool. It's messed up. Claire eventually gets over it. If she ever does, if she decides to start dating again, she's not gonna be stressed out about getting a man. She's gonna be like, okay, I could take my time because yeah, she doesn't want to be lonely, but she has children. Most of her children are older. You know, she has some adult children. She has some teenage children. She has an adolescent. So, in that sense, she's not rushing to find a new man because things is taken care of, and she's a lawyer. She getting money on her own. You know, like, and that's another thing. I always thought, okay, what if I get sick? What if I can't work? Can my woman, if I get seriously injured, can my woman take over and be the breadwinner? You know, if I'm in a wheelchair or something happens to me, and well, I'm a software engineer, so I assume if I can't use my dang hands and type on a computer, oh, I need somebody else who got some skills. I like women with skills, not stripper skills. That's another thing I brought up with friend. Like, bro, you be dating strippers and you be dating just random chicks that work at McDonald's. You just be dating. He'll date some. I'm not saying they're not pretty, and he'll even date a college chick. I'll be like, okay, cool, but what's her uh, degree going to be in? She getting a bachelor's in like liberal arts, and not just a specific liberal arts. It'll just say liberal arts. I'm like, liberal arts of what? Like, is it political science? Is it philosophy? Like, because philosophy is good. Like, you can go to law school of philosophy, or you can do whatever. Is it liberal art? Does she got a STEM? Like, she just in school just playing around? Do she got debt? Like, it's a lot of questions that you have to go in. Is she trying to work in hospitality? Is she trying to become a nurse? She trying to become a physician assistant, a pharmacist. Like, you don't be dating, my mans don't be dating pharmacists and physicians and physical therapists or other lawyers or anybody of any significance. I can't, I'm just thinking of those professions. He don't be dating chicks like that. He be dating chicks that barely ain't money not right, or money never, without a man, their money never gonna be right, and that's to me is unattractive. But to him, that's what he wants. So I'm like, okay, that's what you're dating. You can't say you want a Clair Huxtable because Clair Huxtable was never like that. Clair Huxtable was about her business. Yeah, she loved Cliff, but she also made a business decision. Like she wasn't about to just pick any dude, have give birth to children, putting her life on the line, especially a black woman giving birth is wild because the numbers of women that die in childbirth, especially black women, is crazy. Crazy. It's almost like it's being set up. So for a black woman to put her life on the line and have 5 children for a man, a woman like Claire, he gotta be that dude, or she's not doing it. You know. So like I said, that's my friend. Like, bro, you gotta watch the show, man, because you just be saying stuff, and many dudes say that. Oh, I want a Claire Huxtable, you know, more Claire Huxtables. I'm like, if you had a Claire, first of all, if there was a Claire Huxtable that you knew, she probably wouldn't want you. And if she did, do you know what kind of man you would have to be for her to want you? And you have to know what she expects. Because Claire Huxtable wasn't a 50-50 woman. Like, it just wasn't 50-50. You got to think about it. Majority of their relationship for almost 20 years, right, was Cliff was paying for everything. You know, Claire wasn't working. Even when Claire went to law school, she wasn't working. She was a stay-at-home mom and a student by the end of the day, right? So it wasn't a 50-50 relationship until she actually graduated from law school and started bringing money and started contributing. Because that's what happened. If you remember, there's an episode where you got Sinbad, they're trying to buy a car. So Theo and Cliff go buy this car. They're trying to act like they're poor and they want a station wagon, and Sinbad is the seller. But I forget the dude's name that comes in and sees them and talks about his wife, like, y'all getting money. Yeah, at that point in time, Claire was contributing, you know. She was like, take a break, I'll pay half. Everything was cool because she had the money to do so. And she didn't get any more power or less power than she already had. She had the same amount of say in a relationship that she had of how things happen as she had even before she started contributing. But she wanted to contribute, you know. And then that also was a gift to Cliff because now Cliff can save some of his money. So they're going 50-50. He's not paying for everything anymore because it's not necessary. And that's on Cliff's part too. Cliff was like, okay, now you getting this money, you going to contribute. Yes, because her contribution before wasn't money, it was everything else, the important stuff, helping raising the kids right. That was the most important at that time. That was her contribution. Well, as the kids get older, right, and they don't need her as much, her role changed. Her role changed from being a stay-at-home mom to contributing financially because Rudy's the youngest and Rudy goes to school now. Rudy don't need mom every day. Rudy has a big sister. A, actually, she got 3 big sisters and a big brother. And she don't need, you know, her mom around her all the time, especially since the older ones were raised by the mother. So she don't need her mother around because she has older siblings. So Rudy doesn't need her around as much, you know, and it can be supplemented with the older children, especially Sandra was an adult at this time. Um, Denise is getting ready to go to college, so she's hitting 18 soon. So you got to think about that. So they don't really need, you know what I mean? They don't need Claire as much because now Sandra, when she was a baby, she didn't have any older siblings. And so she needed her mom all the time. Denise had Sandra, but they're only 2 years apart. So as they got older, by the time you get to the younger kids, they don't need the mother as much, which is why she was able to start going to law school and become a lawyer and do things she did. So, again, my friend told him, you got to think about things like that. Like, I think, which he kind of thought it was funny because he said, you thought about all this? I was like, yeah, I thought about it since I was a freaking teenager. When I used to watch the show again. Like, I rewatched the whole show, and I'm thinking, because I had the actual DVDs, I had the whole set at the crib. So I had the whole set from season 1 to season 8. So yeah, I watched it many times, and I would say, makes sense. It was very, for me to become successful in life, I say that's one of the things, that show is one of the things that, you know, warped my mind in a positive way. Especially growing up in an area where people weren't so positive. I'll say it that way. But yeah, so again, people don't really so especially men don't really understand the archetype of Claire. So there's a lot of women who don't understand the archetype of Claire Huxtable. But if you really go back and pay attention, she was a monster. She was a beast in all of her own in a good way. You know, she was able to have authority without undermining Cliff, and become successful in her own right, and that's beautiful, and that's what you would want in a family dynamic, and so your kids can follow the same pattern. You know, you had the oldest, heck's her name, Sandra, graduated top of her class at Princeton, an Ivy League school. Graduated from Princeton, found a man that graduated from Princeton with her, got married. He eventually becomes a general surgeon, you know, practicing emergency medicine at the hospital. And what's her name? And you know, and Sandra, she becomes a lawyer like her mother. After what? Sandra is the exact copy of Clair Huxtable. If you go watch the show, Sandra is also the Clair Huxtable archetype. People don't realize it because Sandra is a lot younger, her character, because in real life I think they're only 10 years apart. Sabrina LaBeouf and Felicia Rashad are like only 10 years apart. But Sandra, her character is a lot younger than Claire. They're like 20 years apart. And the thing is, Claire, that's her carbon copy. That's her mini me. Just like her, you know. Found the dude that became a doctor, had his babies first, had the twins, but she was done with the two. She was like, yeah, I popped these twins out, that's it. He's not getting no more. Had the twins, right? After she had the twins, what'd she do? She started getting ready to go to law school. Went to law school. When she told her mother she wasn't going to go to law school, Claire was like, you out your mind. She didn't care if Denise went to law school. She didn't care if Vanessa went to law school. She didn't care if Theo, Rudy, Danny. She didn't raise them to be like her. She raised Sandra to be just like her. And then you got to think about this too. That's why Sandra, because the way Sandra is the way Claire is. And you know this because they give clues, right? Throughout the show, they give clues. Sandra, no, when Sandra was dating Elvin before they got married, and Cliff was like, oh, it was an episode where Sandra went out with a guy named Daryl. Daryl was played by the same guy that eventually becomes Denise's husband. But at the time, at the end of the episode, he's talking to Claire like, hey, man, I don't think Elvin's the guy. Like, he's not a good dude and blah, 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 blah. He's a misogynist and all this stuff. And if you really think about it, Claire actually likes, as much as she gets on Elvin, she really likes Elvin. Claire loves Elvin. Why? Because Elvin is another Cliff. Cliff was talking all this stuff about Elvin, and Claire was like, pretty much told him, you're the same thing. He said, yeah, but I changed. He said, yeah. And she was like, yeah, you did change because I changed you. And that let him know, oh, just like I trained my daughter to change Elvin. And what did Sandra do? She changed Elvin. Elvin became another Cliff Huxtable. Just like Claire molded in a way, in her own way, molded Cliff to be what she wanted or needed him to be, Sandra did the same thing to Elvin. You know? Elvin said he didn't want to go to med school. Sandra said, I don't want to go to law school. Whole point of that, if you go watch the show, was for her to support him and show her support. Because if she would have went straight to law school, became a lawyer, you know, or while she was going to law school and he was trying to do the wilderness store by itself, if that would have happened that way, instead of them working together to do the wilderness store, that would have put a rift in their relationship, because it would have been like, she would have felt so way, like, I'm going to law school and you're not even keeping up with what I'm doing. You know, I'm doing better than you, especially because the store wasn't doing that well anyway. So for her to just stick by him and do what he wants to do, because if you, like you said, you go watch the show, when she was pregnant and they was living in that terrible apartment and they didn't want to take any help, Cliff was talking crazy, like, oh yeah, they got my daughter here, blah, 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 blah. But Claire said, well, you had me the same way. When they were talking to Cliff's parents, you had me the same way, living in this weird apartment when she was pregnant with Sandra, and I stuck by you, because Cliff had the whole thing. He thought that that whole scenario when they were together and Claire was pregnant with Sandra, that she loved living in that terrible apartment. Said no, I lived there because I loved you, but it was terrible when they first started out. Before he actually got into the Navy and things started popping, and he didn't know that. I said yeah. So the same thing Sandra's doing. Sandra followed the same pattern, and she ended up getting this man since he already was a Princeton graduate, which is hard enough to go to med school, graduate, become a surgeon, get specialized. Like he didn't just do like family medicine or something like that. He got specialized, became a surgeon, getting that real money. That took a lot of pressure off um of Sandra because Sandra's like, all right, now I can go to law school. And actually, by the time we see that she didn't wait. That's the thing I would say. The reason why Sandra didn't have more kids, she didn't wait until the twins got super old for her to start going to law school. I think they were probably like 2 or 3 years old when she started going because she had her parents didn't mind babysitting, his parents didn't mind babysitting. Like they had a lot of help, and she's like, and Claire was adamant about her going to law school, so she was like, okay, I got a lot of help. I don't have to wait until my son and daughter hit 15, 20 years old. I can go right now. So by the time you get to what, maybe they get married in season 5, I think, or they had the kids in season 5. I'm pretty sure they get married in season 5 as well. Got to go back to look at that, but they do that by season 6 or 7, maybe either the end of 6 or early 7. Uh, Elvin's a surgeon and she's a lawyer. You know, so and this is how it worked out. And even when people talk about, why did I think they were trying to buy a house and they had their parents co-sign. Well, they had Cliff and Claire's co-sign, and why when the house wasn't ready and they moved out the apartment, they want to move back in with Cliff and Claire. And the reason why, if you were to pay attention, Sandra's not an idiot. Her father-in-law, Elvin's dad, is uh is Caribbean and a misogynist. She love him, but she's not trying to live in that house with like them because she don't want Elvin to revert back and all her hard work to go to, to go to hell. So what she's gonna do is, oh, we're gonna move in. I'm pretty sure it was her idea. We're gonna move in with my parents until the house was ready. Why? And she knew she was gonna get it. They tried to beg, but she knew she was gonna get what she want because she's a daughter's girl. Like that's her. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's the favorite daughter, the favorite child. Period. Besides Theo, because he's the only boy, Sandra's the favorite, and there's no disputing that. Sandra's the favorite. But they're like, okay, she's gonna move there because that way she has a little bit more control. Yes, she got to deal with her parents a little bit longer. She's been out the house for some years, but hey, I'd rather deal with my parents than deal with his parents. Because I'm not about that. She's not about to have Elvin revert back and she got to start him all over again. Because 3 months living with them, because that's all they had. They needed 3 months to live with somebody. 3 months living with them, all her hard work with Elvin probably go out the window. She's not trying to do all that. She don't want him to be switching back and forth, switching up. You know, the Caribbean father-in-law talk about something. Your wife need to be cooking and doing all this. She's like, nah, cook what I want to cook. So she's like, let's go stay with my parents, and that's what it was. So Sandra has always been strategic. She learned from her mother. She's the next Claire, right? And that just is what it is. Now you get somebody like who else? I'm not gonna talk about Denise. Yeah, and like I said, Sandra's the favorite daughter. You already know that because in the first season, when she comes home for Thanksgiving, right? And that's the first episode you ever see Sandra. She comes home for Thanksgiving. I think that's episode 10. What happens? Cliff is ecstatic. Why? Because 4 A's and a B. She got 4 A's and a B. That's 5 classes. She's a full-time student at Princeton. At Princeton University, she got 4 A's and a B as a sophomore. She's a 20-year-old sophomore. Which is why what? What happened? If you ever go watch that episode, what she wants to do is go to Paris for the summer. You know, what's her name? Claire was on board with it. They had to get Cliff to get on board with it. Cliff was never going to tell her no. She kept trying to maneuver her. He never actually says the word no. He just tried to maneuver her away from Paris because he didn't really want her to go to Paris. But how you going to tell his daughter, who his favorite daughter, because he couldn't wait for her to get there. If you go watch the episode, he was waiting on her. that got 4 A's and a B at Princeton that she not going to Paris and that he not going to pay for it. She's going to go to Paris and he going to pay for it. She going to have a good time on his dime. And, the mother's a lawyer too, so on both of their dime. The mom was good with it. He didn't have a problem with spending money for Sandra to go to Paris for the summer. He had a problem with his 20-year-old daughter being out there in the streets. But he's like, you know what? Your mama raised you well, so I'm good with it. I gotta be good with it, because I can't tell her no. He couldn't tell her no. He tried so many times without saying the word no, to get her to. He was willing to send her to Japan than to send her. He's like, I'd rather send you to Japan. You don't like send you to Japan rather than send you to Paris. He wasn't stressed out about sending her to Japan, but he was definitely stressed about sending her to Paris. But either way, Sandra got what she wanted. So, and throughout the show, Sandra always gets her way. And when she don't get her way, she has a temper tantrum, which is no different than when Claire doesn't get her way or things don't go the way she wanted to go, and Claire has a temper tantrum. People talk about, the time that Claire took her babies, Claire and the mother-in-law took her babies, and she snapped on Claire and the mother-in-law. Well, Claire was like, yeah, that's something I would have did too. That's why she wasn't as mad, because that's her baby. She trained her, taught her from the day she came out the womb. She been grooming her to be the next her. Like she took a spit and spit on the ground, and it grew up into a person to be Sandra. So Sandra is also the Clair Huxtable archetype. So you got two Clair Huxtables in the show, and the best thing about it with Sandra and Elvin relationship is that we didn't visually get to see throughout the show. We didn't get to see Clair Huxtable and Heathcliff Huxtable from the beginning of their relationship in college to the last episode. We only got to see them already in their 40s, already adults, right? Already with adult children. That's where we see Cliff and Claire at the beginning of the series. We get to see Sandra and Elvin from the very beginning, where they started dating at Princeton, all the way to season 8, last episode, when Theo graduates. We get to see that whole relationship. And if you pay attention, the whole point of them writing it that way is to mirror and to give you the illusion this is what similar, maybe not exact, but similar how Claire and Cliff would have been when they were in their 20s is the same as how Elvin and Sandra is in their 20s. And they're working through it. And they're going through their marital issues and their dating issues until they finally get to be settled, have their own home, own family, everything. They're taking care of business, right? That is, the Clair Huxtable archetype. Clair Huxtable, highly intelligent. Sandra, highly intelligent, right? They go from being highly intelligent, picking men that are intelligent. Maybe not as intelligent as them, and not as strategic, but enough that somebody that they can mold in a way, but not too much, because not really mold in personality, but just kind of, making it more comfortable for themselves. So both of them take a back seat to the men that they're probably a lot smarter than. Well, Elvin a little bit different. I think everybody in the show kind of mentions how intelligent Elvin is. Like he's super intelligent, but he do stupid stuff like go out with 2 females that he knew from college just because Sandra said he could. Knowing, well, he didn't know, because at the time when you're young, you think when your woman says, trust me, I know, you think your wife tells you, yes, you can go out this time. You think she really means yes. You ask her extra time, but she don't mean yes. She wants you to say, no, I don't care what you say. I'm going to stay home because I'd rather be with you than go out with a squad of women. If you got somebody like me, I know a bunch of females, but I'd rather, and I know some guys too, but just saying, sometimes your bro don't want you to go nowhere. Maybe she don't want to go out. It's like, you come out with me. She's like, I don't want to go out tonight. So she don't want to go out, but she don't want you to go out either. But she not going to stop you until you know. She going to want you to figure it out for yourself, which is strange. Now, sometimes she'll tell you no, because I want you to stay home, not know like you have to. Or it could be a lot of things. Maybe she just wants some attention, or you never know what's going on with your woman. She's going through her own little phases, especially if she's young. She's in her 20s. Y'all get married young, but yeah, I really enjoyed the show. I really enjoyed. My favorite thing about the show is the Clair Huxtable archetype because you get two Clair Huxtables now. You get Clair Huxtable, and then you get mini Clair Huxtable. You get Thibodeau, Sandra Huxtable Thibodeau. She actually hyphened the name, if I'm not mistaken. So you get those two Clair Huxtables, and they make it slightly different enough for the audience not to 100% notice it at first, because if you just it kind of would be a little weird if you, and it wouldn't make sense that Sandra is exactly 100% like Claire because she's a lot younger, so she has a lot. So Claire would actually have a lot more experience than Sandra. Sandra doesn't have the experience, the life experience, so she's gonna be fumbling around and figuring it out how Claire would have done when she was younger. And I'm pretty sure if Claire is the way she is, her mother is probably like how she is, right? We see when you see Claire Huxtable's mom in some episodes, you notice it's not much. You see how they vibe, and a lot of times, like my whole life, every time I met a woman, and I met her mother, she was just like her mom. I don't care, just like her mother. I remember when I met my wife's mom. Actually, I didn't even meet her at first. I remember being in the building and I saw this woman walking. I was looking out the window. I saw this woman walking from the parking lot, and without my wife even telling me, because we weren't married at the time, that was her mother, what her mother looked like, because I was supposed to be meeting her. I saw, because there was a couple people out there, but it was a specific woman that was walking just like her. I was like, that's her right there. She walked just like my wife. They walk exactly the same. Move the same, got the shades on the same, hair bang, the bang is the same, the shoulder back, like it was just the same. I said, that's her mama right there. I don't even need no help. I know that's her mama. And as soon what happened when I met her, yep, that was her mama. I told her when her mom left after that, I was like, yo, I knew that was your mom. I said, how you doing, my mom? Because I saw her in a freaking parking lot and she was walking like you. She said, we don't walk like. I said, all right, whatever. Y'all just alike. And it wasn't much difference between them, except for one was younger, one was older. And the mom was in good shape. She had two babies. Other than your mama had two kids, she looked like that. Bet. I know. I know what I'm getting. But anyway, I digress. The point of the story is that when guys say they want to Clair Huxtable, I don't think they actually know what they're talking about. Especially based off sometimes the women they date. If you dating chicks and like you've never heard anywhere in the show where they be like, oh, Claire just be in the club all the time. No, she's a mother. If she want to hang out, she hanging out with females, other married women. This is another thing too. I don't recall in the show. I gotta go back and look at it again. I haven't watched it from front to back in a long time. Claire wasn't really out here hanging out with single moms. She wasn't hanging out with single moms. She wasn't hanging out with divorced moms. Like I think it was one chick that they mentioned that got divorced, but she had got remarried. So she wasn't really hanging out with no divorcees, no single moms. She wasn't doing that. She wasn't bringing that around her daughters because she got daughters. Now she can't have her daughters thinking that's okay. She wasn't doing that at all. She wasn't partying and doing all this crazy. Yeah, she went out. She liked to go dance. But who's she going out with? Cliff. Going dancing. Doing her thing. I don't know. Like I said, people talk about the Clair Huxtable archetype all the time. But I think a lot of people, especially men, when they say they want the Clair Huxtable, they don't actually know what they're talking about because they have an idealized version of her, not based on the show. Because some people might know that remember that she's a lawyer, but she wasn't a lawyer the whole show. Yeah, majority of the show she was, because I think she was a lawyer by season 1. But if you go back and look, she didn't start out a lawyer. If you look at the fact that she's not a lawyer until she's in her like early 40s, right? Early 40s, maybe you can argue late 30s. She's when she becomes a lawyer. No, I think she's in law school in her late 30s, and she's actually becomes a lawyer, passes the bar in her early 40s. Because even at the beginning of the show, I think the first episode you see Claire cleaning, but uh, she's finishing up law school and things like that by the next couple episodes. So and going to work as a lawyer. So yeah, I don't think people actually know what the Clair Huxtable archetype is, but I love the archetype. I mean, it's a lot more to it. You got to go watch it again. I'm just talking about from my perspective of what I think is important. She picked the right guy. She didn't risk her life with or waste her time with dudes that wasn't going to succeed. And because the woman she was, Cliff couldn't play around with life. Like he had to get on it, especially if he's going to be getting Claire pregnant. She wasn't just going to be pregnant and be like he was on time limits. They weren't actually explicitly set, but he had some time limits. He was like, yo, I gotta get. He knew I gotta go to med school. I gotta go go to Navy. I gotta do this, that, and the third because to have a woman like Claire, she not gonna be playing with me if I'm out here playing games, not taking care of business. She's trusting me, and he didn't. And that's another thing too. Because of the woman Claire is, Cliff doesn't want to let her down. You know, doesn't want to let her down. And Claire, because of the woman she is, she obviously doesn't want to be let down, but she's giving Cliff the opportunity to do things his way, and she's gonna follow. That's look at again Sandra and Elvin. Elvin decided not to go to med school right away. Sandra decided not to go to law school right away. She don't want to make him feel uncomfortable while she's in law school and he's doing whatever. That would make the pressure would be on. She doesn't want to put pressure on him. It's already pressure enough being a husband, having to take care of this woman, especially since she comes from a good family, you know. So now he's like, okay, this gives her time to maneuver, properly plan, because it was no way like Sandra. If I go back and look at it, I realized that Sandra was always going to go to law school. It was never going to be I'm not going to law school. She used that, and we never see like if this was a real family, we would have probably saw in the background Claire and Sandra talking like, yeah, I'm gonna just maneuver this way, and eventually he's gonna go to med school and that. Like they probably was planning, talking, plotting. Mothers and daughters plot all the time. Like it was never she wasn't gonna go to law school. That was what was put out there to make uh what's his name Elvin feel good. Like dang, she really told her parents she wasn't going to law school after all the money they spent and everything like that. That she wasn't going to go to law school, and she said that to her parents' face. Saying she's supporting me because I'm not going to med school. We gonna do this wilderness store together. We gonna do this business together. We not gonna. And that was the role she played. You know, and and she had support because no matter what, you know, if anything were to happen, she can always go home. So, yeah, she played her position well. And after she had them twins, my man Elvin was like, "Yo, I can't have my wife, and the twins living crazy. I gotta go to med school. I can't play with it. That's all it took. I can't play with this woman's life. She just put her life on the line to give birth to two babies. Gave me a son and a daughter, and I'm gonna go out here and I'm trying to do a wilderness store. We could barely do the wilderness store with us together. I'm gonna do it by myself. No, man, forget this wilderness store. I'm gonna go out here, get this money. Because he, you know, if I believe, had Cliff had offered to pay for him to go to med school, but I don't think he actually paid. I think when he reapplied to med school, he got a scholarship anyway because he's highly intelligent. So it wasn't no issue with him getting into a school. He just didn't want to go. So that actually set them back a couple of years. I think he didn't go the first year. So yeah. I mean, he would have graduated med school a year earlier if they didn't have the baby. They had the baby. They got Sandra got pregnant right away. So after they had the baby, he went to med school the next year. Well, no, 2 years because pregnant the whole time, had the baby, then had to reapply, and it took him a year to get in. So it was like 2 years. So he could have graduated med school 2 years sooner if he'd have just went straight to med school. Though, as I think about it, if him going to med school while she is pregnant, that'd have probably been difficult. It was already difficult enough for her to take care of the babies by herself while he was at med school. But yeah, it was very. I think the show was written very well. I think Sandra's character was written very well. I think everybody's written very well. But the Clair Huxtable archetype is a very good archetype, and like I said, you guys all the time talk about, so man, Clair Huxtable, I want a Clair Huxtable, and I'd be like, bro, you don't want a Clair Huxtable because you don't know what that means. You don't know what the pressure would be to be married to a Clair Huxtable, to have to make sure you perform. Claire is not the type that don't want top performance. Like, you have to go out here and compete in the world. To keep a Clair Huxtable, you got to be out here getting this money. Because a Clair Huxtable don't need you. So for her to choose you, you know what I'm saying? For her to choose you, for a Clair Huxtable to choose you, that means you got to be somebody that she knows is going to be a high performer. She got to see a lot in you to risk her life bringing your children into the world. She better see a high performer in you and a devotion to her. And that's what Cliff was. Cliff was a high performer and devoted to her. Because she could have picked any high performer, but was every high performer going to rock out with her? Till death do you part? Same thing with Sandra. Sandra is super pretty. She could have had any man she wanted. She wanted Elvin. Elvin, a high performer in college, and Princeton, just like her, Ivy League school. So that's also appealing to her. She's like, oh, he's just as smart as me. Maybe even smarter, which we couldn't find out. Yes, he is smarter than her, in a sense. I mean, she's more strategic, but he's brilliant. So, yeah, she's like, okay, he's even smarter than me. And he has the potential to be a high performer. And she's attracted to him, which is why she didn't get rid of him. She had a lot of options, and she would say, oh, there's nobody else. There's nobody else that she liked, that looked the way Elvin looked, and the archetype she wants, like physically. Because remember, Elvin was a wrestler. Elvin used to wrestle in college, in high school. No, I think in college he stopped wrestling, but he wrestled in high school, definitely, which I believe is how he got into college. I think originally he had a athletic scholarship, maybe, and then he transitioned to an academic scholarship. But I remember him being a wrestler because he actually, when he came to visit them from school with Sandra, when he came to visit the Huxtable family, Theo was in wrestling, and he would take Theo in the basement and teach Theo some wrestling moves, And Sandra really liked that. She's like, oh, I got a dude that can wrestle. He's physical. He's strong. He's physical. And he's highly intelligent. What more could she ask for? He's used to winning in life. He win in the ring, on the mat, in wrestling. Win in the classroom. He's going to win in life. He's not afraid to. That's nothing, too. You got to be able to compete. A woman like a Clair Huxtable wants a man that's competing in life. That means everything you do, you winning. You at the top. You winning with grades. You winning with athletics. I don't care if you're a singer, a rapper. I don't care if you are a businessman. I don't care if you're in corporate. I don't care if you're in the military. I don't care if you're a cop. I don't care if you're a freaking surgeon. Whatever it is you're going to be doing, you got to be the highest performer, and you got to be winning in life to keep a Clair Huxtable. To even get a Clair Huxtable, she got to look at it like, oh, he's a high performer in life. He is a competitor. So everything he does that he chooses to do, he wants to be number one. He may not always get it, but he's going to fight for it. He competes. A Clair Huxtable archetype is going to marry a competitor, not somebody that's going to try to sit down and be in the background. So, yeah. So that's all I have to say. Hope you enjoyed this. If not, comment and let me know if I'm off, or if you have any other thoughts.